Can you all hear me okay? Great, thank you very much. I'd like to thank everyone at Mindspark for inviting me over to speak to you all. My Greek isn't very good, so I'm afraid you have to deal with English, unfortunately. Is it working? We'll try. We'll try. So thank you very much for coming over. I met Leo at the Social Marketing Centre conference in Antwerp last year, and I was doing a small presentation, a small workshop in a room slightly smaller than this, so this is a bit more intimidating than about 40 people sitting in front of me. But he came up to me at the end of the workshop and said he was really interested in what I was trying to communicate about and invited me over. And I said, stupidly, I said yes. And here I am now in front of you all, panicking in the headlights slightly. But I'm okay, I think. So what I'm going to be covering today, I've got a kind of a list of, hopefully, the plan for this evening. The first bit is, hello. Hello. Thank you. You are still there then, yeah. I introduced myself. It's just been said that I work for a company in the UK based near Liverpool, and we do social marketing and behaviour change. So as a daily role, I undertake research and insight to find out how we can change people's behaviour for the better, or for some of our clients, help to sell products or design campaigns and messages that might help people make decisions in the direction in the favour of our clients. So what I'm going to be covering tonight, and hopefully you'll pick something up from this that may interest you to come along to the masterclass tomorrow and learn a little bit more. So I'm going to cover why I think it's important to think about emotions for us, for my role as an insight and behaviour change specialist, why it's useful for our clients and our businesses. Hopefully you're going to learn as well a little bit of how we can collect data around emotional responses for people, and then what we can do with that information. What value is it to us as business owners, employers of staff members? So hopefully you'll take something away that might get you a little bit interested to find out a bit more. So I'm going to take you on a little bit of a journey this evening. Anybody here who's a psychologist? Good. Anybody here is a scientist? Only one of you, that's okay. 2, 3, we can cope with that. So I'm going to take you on a little bit of journey. My background is psychology, which I'm sure you're all aware is the scientific study of the mind and human behaviour and how the two interact. So we have two parts that you can't get too far away. There we go. We have the mind and we have the behaviour. And it's important for me in my role to understand how those two parts interact with each other in particular contexts and situations where we operate in our daily lives. Because I'm hoping to change people's behaviour a little bit. So I'm lucky in a way that because of my role, I get to use psychology on a daily basis in insight development, in research, in marketing, in creating strategies and policies for governments, and marketing campaigns for other companies. One of the fundamental elements of psychology and understanding how we behave is the key subject I want to talk about this evening, which is emotion. So before we get into actually what an emotion is and what use it is to us and me in my role, and hopefully for you as businesses, we want to kind of understand how an emotion influences our behaviour. And I'm going to take you on this little journey across 2 or 3 steps. Can you all remember a time when you last felt an emotion? Yes? No? Yeah? Yeah? We've all had emotions. Okay. Can you think what happened when you had that emotion? Have you any idea what happened to you? No? Okay. Well, it's likely that that emotion will have had a trigger. Something would have started that emotion off. Whether it was walking down the road, down the street, and seeing somebody that you thought was attractive, or perhaps it was an advert, a commercial on TV, or perhaps it was somebody on the road who cut you up in their car. You'd have had a trigger. And then your body would have had a physiological response. Something would have happened. So something would have happened in your body. Your heart rate might have increased. Your cheeks may have gone red and flushed a little bit. You may have got angry, or you may have felt happy, or filled with joy. These emotions are as old as we as thinking human beings actually are. They develop at the oldest part of our brain, the amygdala, which is the base of our brain before it joins the spinal cord. And what they actually are, these emotions, are a strong feeling deriving from circumstances, our mood, or our relationship with others. You've got to sneak up on it. It's instinctive and it's intuitive feeling. It's not something we have reasoning for. We don't think and plan our emotions in advance. They just happen. We don't need to have knowledge before they happen. And for us as businesses, things don't work. There we go. It's the feeling somebody has about a product or a service that can influence their decision as whether to buy the product or not, or to actually walk into a store to make that decision, or to choose a car, for example. So they're important to us. And as part of this journey, I want us to just have a little play around the edges of what it means in terms of psychology and our bodies, our minds, to see, so you can hopefully see how this is useful for my everyday job and for yourselves. But first, I want to have a little quiz for you, a little question. I've got 2 questions. And you can write these answers down if you want, or you can share them with your friends and colleagues. Or maybe you can't. Question 1. Approximately, how many pieces of information, sensory information, hit our brains in any 1 second? Okay? You want to write the answer down, or anybody want to take a guess? You can't take a guess. No? Anybody got an idea? 1,000? 2,000? Millions? How many millions? You're not a scientist, are you? Yeah. Approximately 11 million pieces of information hit our brains in every second. 11 million pieces of information every second, every moment. Okay? Question 2. How many pieces of information can our brains actually process in that same moment? Yeah, that's a good guess. Any thoughts? Is it? It's about 40. Anybody surprised by that? And what's worse, we can only remember somewhere between 5 and 9 individual bits of information. Surprised? How does that happen? How do we do it? How do we deal with all that information hitting our senses, hitting our brains, every second, and yet we're only able to process a tiny amount of it? How do we deal with it? Well, the fact is, the answer lies in the fact we have 2 minds. And often we use this phrase, I'm in 2 minds what to do about something. We have 2 minds. We have the conscious and the subconscious or unconscious mind. Depending if you're a Freudian psychologist, you might use those phrases differently. And what are they? What's different about them? Well, the conscious mind it's very limited in what it can deal with in any 1 second. Around 40 bits of information is all it can deal with. It's the bit of your mind that experiences the moment you're in at this point in time. It's the only bit that's in your awareness that you're dealing with it when that second passes or that moment passes. It likes to express itself through a running commentary in your mind. Anybody here is prepared to admit they have a voice in their head? Hopefully you all do at some point, because that's your conscious mind. Your conscious mind is the one that talks to you. The good thing about that voice in your head, hopefully it says good things most of the time, but you can control it. You can tell that brain, that voice, what you want to say. So if it's telling you some bad stuff, just tell it to shut up and go and do something else instead. Your conscious mind is the part of the mind you're using to read that text that's up on the board at the moment. That's only in your awareness now because I've just pointed to it. Before, when you were looking at me, you weren't reading the text, so your conscious mind was focused on me and what I was saying. As you read that text, you probably have a voice in your head reading it to yourself, and then you're deriving some meaning, and whether that meaning is important to you as an individual. The conscious mind likes everything to make sense. It doesn't like disorder. It likes to have everything agreed in our brains and happy, so we're not arguing with ourselves. If we start arguing with ourselves, then we've probably got two voices in our head, and you may need to seek medical help. Okay? I want to test this out with you. I want you to think of the place where you live, your apartment or your house, your home. Can you all picture where you live? Yep. Can you actually walk around your house in your head and see all the rooms? I want you to think about the colour of your front door when you get home. What colour is it? Have you got that in your head? Your conscious mind is now working to tell you, here's a picture of your front door. This is the colour we know it in. That's what your conscious mind does. And then we can confuse it. I want you all to think of the colour of your front door, but at the same time, I want you to do a multiplication mathematics sum for me. I want you to work out in your head 1,798 multiplied by 601 and keep the picture of the front door in your head. Anybody manage to do that? No. You probably won't. You have to do one or the other. That's the conscious mind. That's what it likes to deal with, small bits of information that make sense, have order for us. So what is the subconscious or the unconscious mind? Well, it's nothing. Everything else that happens in your body and in your mind is going on in the subconscious, in the unconscious part of your brain. The research shows that the unconscious part of your brain can deal with millions of pieces of information in every moment that we're awake and asleep in some cases. The research shows that it has amazing processing capabilities, so everything's going on in the background until we bring it into conscious awareness. So you've got all kinds of things going on in your head that you don't even think about, your blood pressure, and now you might even start to think about what you had for lunch today, because I've just asked you to do that. Yeah? Before, it was in your unconscious brain. It knows what you had for lunch, but now you can actually see a picture of it, and you can talk yourself through what you had for lunch. That's what our unconscious brain does. Most of the time, thankfully, our unconscious brain, everything is happening without our awareness, which means we don't have to concentrate on 11 million bits of information at any one time. We can just let it get on with it. Yeah? It means that our nervous system runs itself, our whole endocrine system, our blood system, all just runs without us having to think about it. Imagine every day if you had to wake up and think, I need to make sure my heart's going now. Is the blood going round to the right places? Have I got oxygen in my blood? Am I breathing enough? Imagine if that was going on. You'd be in chaos. So our unconscious mind then, our conscious mind is processing only a minute fraction of what is hitting our senses. and what our unconscious mind is processing. If we think back to these figures, 11 million bits of information, we can only process 40 of them. We can only remember somewhere between 5 and 9 of them. That means that if you work that out, we have, any moment, 10,000, I have to read this number, 10,999,960 bits of information hit our brains that we know nothing about. 40 bits of information we do know something about. That equates to 99.99% of all processes we have no clue are actually happening in our bodies at any point, because we're not thinking about them. Is that someone trying to get me off? Have I run out of time? Thankfully, that's good for us. Our subconscious brain runs on autopilot. How many of you have driven cars here tonight to get... Yep. How many of you had a crash on the way? Thankfully, no one. Because we drive our cars, we don't have to think about which pedal to use. We don't have to think about looking out the windows. We don't have to think about holding the steering wheel. It's become unconscious. So we can listen to the radio. We can have a conversation on the phone with our friends. We can sing. We can dance in the car. Or pick our noses, as a lot of people seem to do in their cars for some reason. It means we can get on with that. Okay? These are habits. Habits for us can be good. That's a great habit. The fact that you don't have to think about getting in your car and driving every day. You don't have to think every day how to eat. It just happens. It's a habit. But it also means we've got some bad habits. How many of you here are smokers? Hardly any of you. That's good. Social marketing is working. Now, the betting is that when you first started smoking, consciously you had to work really hard to become a smoker. You may have been sick and been ill, and you had to get past that until it became an unconscious process. Now you don't even have to think about it. You just pick the packet up, take one out, light up, and away you go. And you can get on with other things in life. So, given that 99.99% of what is going on in our brain is going on outside of our conscious awareness, and we make around 10,000 decisions every day, that means that most of our decisions are happening without our awareness at all. We have no idea what is making those decisions for us. They just happen. Which is where we get back to emotions. I'm going to take a little sideways step for you, which further covers the area of emotion, and look at some brain studies. I told you it's a bit of a psychological journey. A few years ago, there was a scientist, a neuroscientist called Antonio Damasio, and he studied people with brain damage, particularly brain damage to the part of your brain that I mentioned earlier, where emotions are formed. These people had that part so damaged that they were not able to form emotions. They were quite normal in every other way in life. They could speak to each other, they functioned normally, except they couldn't feel emotions. But something really interesting came out of this as well. They could describe what they should be doing in logical terms when they were coming to make decisions. So if we gave them a choice over something, they could say, I'd like to choose that one because it is blue. But they couldn't make the decision. Logically, they could describe the process, but because they had no emotion, they couldn't make the decision. So, for example, they couldn't even make the decision about what to eat for lunch. If somebody gave them a chicken sandwich and a turkey sandwich, now there's not much of a difference between chicken and turkey. There's no kind of qualitative difference, really. They were unable to make a decision about which to have because of this lack of emotion. So with no rational way to make that decision, it seems at the point of decision, without emotions, we're not able to function and make decisions. It seems very important. Okay? So what does that mean for us in terms of my work and your businesses? Well, it means that when we think of our customers, how many of you kind of public-facing with work? Do you have customers coming in or you work in places where you offer a service or something similar. There's an accepted statistic in mainstream marketing that around 80% of consumer decisions are made or driven by emotions. One Harvard professor suggests that this is around 95% of all our decisions are driven by emotions. And we know that 99.99% of our brain processes occur outside of our awareness. And if we don't have emotions, because the brain is damaged, we can't make decisions. That kind of suggests that emotions are quite high up on the list of influencing our decisions on a daily basis. Which means to me, as somebody who wants to look at insights and understanding how people behave, that I should start thinking about how to deal and measure emotions as part of my research, which is what we've done. But we have a slight problem. Measuring emotions is quite difficult. How do we do it? We could chop people's brains open and see if they've got bits missing when they make a decision. Doesn't seem very fair, really, to do that to people. How can we do it quickly? Well, we could make people wear lots of sensors on their brain when they're making decisions, and we can carry computers around with us and take them into shops and measure and see which parts of their brain are firing at any one time. That seems a bit cumbersome and unlikely to happen, although going forward it's probably quite likely in the future that we're walking into stores and our brains will get monitored as we approach objects. And we know from the figures we've been saying, about 99.99%, etc., we think measuring emotions is pretty important. So how do we go about doing it? It would be great if we could measure it in my role and for my clients, if we could capture that data in a measurable index. Some scores that we could measure people's emotions on. We started doing it. Artificial intelligence is leading the way in everything, which is essentially computer simulation of our human processes. And it's getting closer and closer to reality pretty much on a daily basis. So we've been using software that gathers data from people through a various number of forms. We get lots of text, lots of things from Twitter or interviews. We have lots of text. We can put it straight through this system, through the artificial intelligence system, and it unlocks the emotional content and insights into what customers are thinking and feeling. And not only what they think and feel, the data shows us the underlying reasons why they feel the way they do in terms of the emotion they're experiencing. We can then turn that as a company into evidenced insight that helps our clients then make decisions about how to target a product at somebody or how to design a service to make people use the service in a better way, or help people help themselves by improving their life by quitting smoking or not drinking as much or being more athletic and more active. We use a measure of 8 different emotions, and it means we can solve some business problems which allows our companies, our clients, to grow in the right direction because we understand the emotions and that drive the behaviours of their customers or their service users. There's a couple of quotes I want to just read out before I finish, and hopefully this will make you interested for tomorrow. Again, Professor Zaltman at Harvard Business School said, "Probing the unconscious mind of the consumer has tremendous value beyond just advertising. The insights offered by methods that probe the unconscious mind are relevant at all stages of the product cycle." And these elements here are all the areas that we've been using emotional analytics to measure people's emotions, what drives those emotions, and help us in some of those problems that our clients are having. Some of those are larger than others. customer experience for one, for example. How you interact with your customers is a huge part of maintaining customers and clients. It's what's called at the moment the new battleground for corporations, to understand that relationship with customers and how to do it. We can track brands very easily. How are you performing on a daily basis? What emotions are people giving us, and why are they giving it? Again, I just want to touch on this, but I just wanted to give you a quick whiz through the psychology and how we got to the point where we are. So thank you very much.